challenges and successes, hardship and joy, pain and blessings. The dichotomies of life, right? We eagerly embrace successes, joys, and blessings, yet we become frustrated when challenges, hardship, and pain intersect our lives. But what if the tough times of life are just cleverly disguised opportunities to grow? Resilience, strength, wisdom, courage, and grit are grown when we embrace and choose to learn from those challenging times of life. I invite you to tune your ear to the lessons and insights my guests gained when they fought to overcome the tough times that intersected their lives. Consider how their strategies, mindsets, and habits equipped and empowered them to grow, even thrive, despite the challenges they faced. Welcome to the Challenges Won't Stop Me podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Brown. I'm honored you've chosen to listen to this episode. I believe you will be encouraged and inspired to seek to grow through your challenges. Let's keep moving forward. Super thrilled to have my guest, Honey Duncan, back again with us today.
Yay!
If you didn't catch her episode, please make sure that at some point you go back and listen to that. Such incredible story, but also incredible how God met you and how much of a transformation you have seen in your life. I'm thrilled for us to talk about a mindset that is important to you. So welcome back, honey.
Hi, thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
We're not going to rehash any of your story, but it is very much related to your mindset. So I'm going to let you take off from there.
Wonderful. The topic of mental health and addiction, of especially like depression and anxiety, I feel like that's a mindset of complaining and victimhood. I understand that they're chemical imbalance. As I said, I am diagnosed with those, but I don't think that my mindset of the world is against me. So if I'm on my way to work and there's traffic in front of me, instead of being like, of course there's traffic, this always happens to me, then I can say, great, I get to listen to the song just a little bit longer before I get to work. Instead of being mad about the traffic, having a sense of gratitude in my heart, it just helps me be a happier person on the day-to-day basis. So when those depression episodes do come, they're a little bit easier to bear, and it's not as overwhelming, and it's those big emotions that I talked about, it's not as all-consuming as it used to be because of this mindset of gratitude.
Gratitude is truly a mindset that anyone, whether they've gone through the things that you've gone through or not, gratitude is such a positive thing. What you're saying out loud that you are grateful for, it just like takes over everything in your brain and in your body. Your body relaxes, your brain feels happier. You have a different outlook. Mm-hmm. I've been looking forward to you talking about this. I want to see your viewpoint of those things.
Yes. So all of that is exactly on the right track of what I want to talk about. My gratitude started as very intentional. I intentionally set aside time in my day to practice gratefulness, and in a way where I would just peacefully be with God and not just praying for my needs in the world, but thanking Him for what He has already provided me. He has already provided me with vision, with a mobile body, with a pillow in my bed, with a car that has gas in it and is insured, and enough money to make sure that that's paid for so I can travel to see my loved ones. I can travel to make more money to work. I want to go back to the pillow because I talked about in jail, you don't have a pillow.
I remember you saying that. And when you mentioned it just now, I thought, yeah, I've never really said thank you for my pillow because I don't have the experience that you've had.
Right. It's a mat that has like a raised bump at the top of it. And I mean, as I mentioned, once again, I have back problems. So there was a time in my life that I was on a metal frame with a thin mat with no pillow. I have 2 pillows. To be able to be grateful for 2 pillows completely changes your perspective of what is wrong in your life. When you only focus on the problems in your life, you are more prone to focus on the negative aspects of your life. So if you're only saying like, man, this is an old pillow, it's not comfortable anymore, ugh, I really need to go buy a new one. God, thank you for this current pillow that I have. And thank you for the money in my account and the ability to go to a store and buy a new pillow.
Yes.
You hear the 2 different tones of those stories that we tell ourselves. And it's also being intentional about how I speak to myself in my head.
Yes.
Intra-communication that I have learned through therapy and all of the things that I've done is... So intra-communication is how we speak to ourselves in our head. It's that internal dialogue that you have with yourself. When you really break it down, there are so many things in our lives that are good.
I'm just loving how you're describing it. And it makes me think of the word entitled.
Yes.
And to me, as I'm processing this, the fact that we think of ungrateful being the opposite of grateful, and it is. In addition to that, entitled almost seems like the antithesis of grateful, because our society almost shoves it down our throat that we're entitled to have this and do this and be this. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel entitled, you most certainly do not feel grateful. You feel like, why isn't this happening?
Yes, that is so true.
It just hit me.
That is 100% correct. That's another thing that my gratefulness transfers over to, or my gratitude, is when you're talking about things you have to do, if you change the word to I get to,
yes,
that one word can hit a switch. And like I said, when I first started this, it was so intentional. I would correct myself in the moment and say, oh, nope, I don't have to drive my mom to the airport. I get to. My mom is still alive for me to drive her to the airport.
Yes.
And then it goes back to the car and the free time to be able to do that for her. And she is still in my life, and that I didn't just blow it with her. And she actually forgave me after all the things. And, it's just like there are so many connections that I have to drive my mom to the airport. Those few words, it might not sound like it's doing a lot to your brain.
Oh, but it is.
But it is. Gratitude can just change so much in your life. I promise if you give it a week of just changing those little words of I have to go to work, I get to go to work.
Otherwise, you are feeling entitled that you should have a job and nothing would ever happen that would cause that job to go away. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, there's 1,000 things that could happen. And if you have a really rotten attitude, that's one of them that could cause that job to go away.
Definitely. My whole armor of God, I kind of use that gratitude with it because I know that the devil is attacking us. I know that he will look for cracks in our armor. He will look for any weakness that you are focused on this week. And it changes based off of what you're going through. Like if it is problems with your family, it is problems with your finances. If it's problems with work, if it's problems with your health, he will look for those and he will attack wherever he can. And so that gratitude is just one more defense that I can put up to say, you know what? I'm all good here. I'm happy. I'm willing to accept that God is giving me a lot in my life.
So when you talk about being intentional, describe that to me. Do you have a prayer journal? Do you have a specific time of the day? What does that look like? And I know it will not look the same for everyone, but somebody who's not ever practiced gratitude and hears you, they may say, well, like to at least try what Honey tried.
Yes. I want to let you know that I am still a human, that I have this great practice, but at the very minimum, I practice gratitude when I go to sleep. So instead of counting sheep, I count my blessings. I count all of my family members. I say their names in my head. And then I move on to once again, like my car, my pillow, my shoes, my knees, the fact that like all the joints in my body and so grateful that they work. And even though they hurt, there are people that that don't have them, for the time that I got to spend with my dad while he was still here, and the life that the Lord gave him to live out in this long, fruitful life. So that's the bare minimum now, is at night when I lay down. When I first started, I had a prayer board, and I had sticky notes, and I had Sharpies and highlighters, because I wanted to make it fun, and I wanted it to pop, and I wanted it to like kind of be like a craft, so I could really get into like the different fun things that I can do with sticky notes and color pencils and all that kind of stuff. But when I would have like a big thing that I was struggling with that week, like if it was a job that I could not stand, I started picking out every single thing in that job that I was grateful for.
I like that a lot.
Like a coworker that made it worth going in that day, or the fact that I didn't have to be super dressy to work there. Like I could wear no makeup. Like that's something that I was in that moment grateful for, and just trying to find anything to make it not miserable, because the moment I let it be miserable, I will be miserable.
I could unpack every bit of what you just said and focus on the different aspects of it, because there's so much value in what you just shared, in how take a negative situation. Before we go into the gratitude part, think about all the ways that Satan is going, yeah, I know you're unhappy with this. I'm just going to make it all the more difficult. I'm just going to make it so top of brain, feed into you all the awful things and how it's unfair and this and that. And of course, that's going to put you in a terrible mood.
Yes.
You're going to grumble. You're going to complain. You're going to probably have heartburn or anxiety or all of the above, all crammed in together. You take that negative situation and say, okay, I am going to focus on, where is there something that is good?
Yes.
Does it change the situation? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it does do a big change in your heart and in your mind, which is where Satan wants to attack. If you've done an about turn on him,
yeah,
then you have essentially, where you had said a moment ago that if you allow a crack, so instead of allowing a crack to get bigger and bigger, yes, because you just continue to grumble about it, if you do an about face and start putting those positive things in there.
And mend that crack.
Well, I think you're putting like super glue over it. You're saying, you're not coming in here. While that's not required for you to do that in order for God to work, I think that he blesses that. Yeah. I think that he says, look at her. She just like threw up her hand to Satan and said, I'm going to focus on what God has done, which are the blessings and being grateful for them. That will carry anyone so much further than grumbling and complaining and having this grouchy attitude about everything. Because while you may have been unhappy about a work situation, you start grumbling and complaining about that. And then all of a sudden you're grumbling and complaining about any number of other things.
Yes.
So it has a ripple effect, both in the negative, but also in the positive. You started praying for this and being grateful for this. And then you're like, oh, yeah. And then this too. And so it has the same spiral effect.
Yes. Definitely.
Of the negative, but in the positive way.
I think that a big thing for me is I used to be a problem-based person. And now I am a solution-based person. So if I am in a problem, it is okay to feel the emotions that I'm in when I am in the problem. Let's say I have a new friend in my life, and she was asking me for help with her business that she has made. And she is a creative, and she needed help with her social media. She needed help with her website stuff. And I have experience in that. What I could do was text her advice. And I sent pages and pages. I sent links, and I reviewed links before I sent them to make sure that they were good and like valuable information. That's not just like, make sure you have good lighting. It was good stuff. And she never responded. I was hurt. I was...
Sure, because you gave of your time.
Yes, yeah. And like my resources that I have built over years, I am freely giving to you, asking nothing in return, because I want to help a friend. I was upset. I wanted to thank you. I wanted anything like questions about what I sent, but you give me nothing. So I went to another friend and I told her about it. In my head, I didn't say this to her. I was like, why am I telling a friend about it? why don't I go to her and tell her how I feel?
Right.
And we were able to talk about it. And I said, hey, this is how this made me feel. I would really appreciate it if you would have said something to me. And she was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I read it and then I moved on, but I will be more intentional with how I respond. And now we're great. That was a solution. There was a solution that I could figure out to move past this instead of staying in the problem and just talking about her and bringing other people's opinions of her down. The way gratitude and being intentional and being not stuck in the problem can change so many aspects of my life is wild.
What makes it so interesting, it's so small, but it has huge impact and outcome.
Yes.
It makes me think about a book that I read several years ago by Ann Voskamp, 1,000 Gifts, where somebody dared her to record on a daily basis the gifts that she saw, the things that she was grateful for. And just like you said, it's like, I got $1,000 in the mail. It's not being grateful for some big thing. You could be grateful for something like that. And it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
It could be that a neighbor that you hadn't seen in a while waved to you when you were walking in the morning. It could be something really simple. But by the end of a year, she had recorded 1,000 gifts. So basically 3 a day. She goes through her book talking about how it impacted her. How it seemed like such a little thing, but how hugely it had impacted her life. We talk all the time about wanting to do things to have a better life. We may want to eat better or exercise more. And while those things are fabulous and we all should do those things, I think adding gratitude, if it's not something that you practice regularly, and you don't have to be as regimented as writing 3 things down every day.
Right.
I mean, it could be that you're just in a car and in between your home and the gym or your home and work, you just, instead of having the radio on or a podcast on, you just spend time with God and you just tell him, I'm just so thankful for. And
Yes.
you just talk about it. It's really easy. Don't make it stressful.
Yeah.
Don't make it this regimented thing that is a noose around your neck.
Right.
I mean, that's not what it's about. It's about an easy thing. It's a conversational thing.
There is a powerful notion of you can restart your day at any time. At any moment, you can decide to have a different version of your day. So when I am feeling frustrated or just like, oh, this just sucks, like I can change that. I can say, okay, but what's good about it? Let me take it back. I don't want to work Christmas Eve. I want to be with my family. But the good thing about it is we have customers that come in and they just love on us on Christmas Eve. We have an old coworker who will bring us lunch on Christmas Eve, and I get to spend Christmas Eve with my work family. And those ladies that I work with, they are, man, they really are. Like, it is not a burden to work with them. They are incredible women, each in their own aspect. And I'm grateful that I get to spend that quality time with them where it's kind of a fun day. Like, it's not just work. After we get off, I get to go be with my family. I can find the amazing things about a situation if I just change my mindset. If I just say, what is good about this instead of just what's bad about this? I can change my day at any time of the day, and that is so powerful.
It is powerful, and it's within our control.
Exactly.
We talked about control
A lot.
in your story episode. And while there are many, many things in this world that are totally out of our control, and thank goodness there is God who is in control and he is handling all of those things.
Yes.
We can control our mindset. We can control whether we're going to be somebody who is known as always grumbling and always complaining and never can see the good, or we can be somebody who is known as, while her life may be challenging at times, she's always complimenting others or seeing the good in others or seeing the good in a difficult situation. I opt to be that second person.
Yes. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with the serenity prayer where it says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Something that I can change is how I perceive the world around me. I do not have to be a victim of this world. I can overcome different situations by being grateful for the good of every situation. I feel like I unlocked a cheat code to life with my gratitude.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that because I don't think I really know what you're referring to. So tell me.
I play video games as like a little pastime to unwind my brain and kind of just take it down from being my high energy self during the day. And there are different types of cheat codes to where you can beat a big boss with, like, if you do like triangle, 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 circle, up, down, those are cheat codes. And then you can do this big boss move to beat the boss. And you should have had to do more, but because you know the cheat code, you can get further on in the game without having to do all of the. So like, I feel like gratitude is just this, it makes my life so much easier and better. I don't know how to explain it other than I deal with a lot of people on a daily basis. And there are people that I feel sorry for, that they can't recognize the good in their life. All they see is the bad things that other people said about them, or that happened at work, or their husband doesn't pay attention to them as much as they used to. Can you see the things that he does do other than focusing on the things he doesn't do? I think that entitlement, as you mentioned, and ungratefulness is just a disease in our hearts and our minds. And
the culture wants to make sure that you feel that way.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, it's great to have goals for your health, but are you focusing on the good that you already have? Or is it constantly what you want tomorrow, what you want in a year, what you want? Like, are you grateful for what you're currently experiencing?
I love the explanation, especially with the video games, although I'm not a video game person. I might have been when Atari first came out way before you were born, honey. But I like understanding that and thinking that there's a cheat code, a way to experience the things that you want, the different levels that you want. I'm also envisioning it as gratitude is that thread that if it's not there, it almost feels like all these things in our lives are disconnected. We don't see how God is working all of the things in our lives. We may say, well, this job is not really what I wanted, but the gratitude thread could connect to where he's taking you. And it's not that you're being grateful so that you can get. Yeah. I'm not saying that, but it feels like it connects all of it. And so if there's this thread of entitlement or ingratitude in our lives, it permeates everything in our lives. And the flip is also true. If you have this thread of gratitude throughout all the different aspects of your life. Yes. Oh, how it's going to impact everything. And it's so simple. It really is. It just is so simple. And so after reading Ann Voskamp's book and being so profoundly impacted by it, but I started a gratitude journal and I was like, okay, I got to do 3 a day. And I felt like this perfectionist kind of thing. 3 a day? Yes, exactly.
You don't get to.
Yes, honey. Yes. But no, it was more about my perfectionist and my rule following kind of personality. And then I got bogged down and I quit doing it because I felt too pressured by it. I couldn't keep it up. So as opposed to keeping an actual journal of it, which I think some people do really well with that, I go about it almost similar to yours. I'm trying hard throughout the day to notice things and be an observer and go, wow, that was amazing. And thank you, God. I didn't go into this situation expecting anything, but look how you showed up. And wow, it has changed me in many, many ways because I think there is always something to be grateful for.
Oh, yeah. And I think that the way you got bogged down in it. Yeah. I would really like to reiterate this is not something that I feel like homework. It is like...
That was a good word picture right there, because immediately I knew exactly what you meant, and I'm sure the listeners did too. I can think of the burden, the burden that homework was at times.
Exactly. And I think that having a mindset of practicing gratitude, I want to focus on that. I want to tell people that when I went into this, it was an antidote to the pain that I would feel, the darkness. Like when I say depression, I mean that I was, oh my gosh, like the world looked darker, like through my eyes. Like I didn't get to see bright sunshiny skies and colorful trees. Everything seemed duller and darker, and just, I was just being untethered to the life around me. And so gratitude is a safe haven for me. This is something that I know that I can do. I can put in this small bit of work of saying, I'm grateful for this chair so I don't have to stand to give this interview and hurt my back. I'm grateful for someone who wants to share my story with the world. It is thing to help me soothe my sickness. To heal what's broken and dark inside of me. The gratitude is not homework. It is rescuing me.
It's healing. It's life-giving.
Yes.
Again, I just want to reiterate how much it changes our perspective.
Yes.
Because once you do it, all of a sudden, there's not a whole lot of effort on your part.
Exactly.
You see it in everything.
Yes.
And then you realize how big God is and how he is involved in the big things of life, but even in the smaller things, how all of it is part of his plan about how he wanted us to live. And when we see it, we see God. We see his heart. We see his love. We see his care.
Yes. Yes. So I really got intentional about my gratitude about 4 to 5 years ago. So I've almost been clean for 7 years. This wasn't the first thing that I picked up. I focused a lot on emotional, mental, addiction, healing, all that kind of stuff. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I got really intentional with it. And I was doing it every single day just to not feel the jitters and the aloofness, and like there's just all these combating bad feelings inside of me. And that's when I just devoured gratefulness. It was all consuming in the best way, because I was like, oh, I found this cheat code. I can get rid of all of these feelings inside of me. I can do this. This isn't a big Mount Everest mountain that I'm climbing. This is something that I can actually do. And I was in a job that wasn't the best for me, but I wasn't actively like looking for another job. But the way God lined up my job at Sweet Peas, it could have only been God. This is a job that I worked in college for 6 years, high school and college. And then I went away and oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't sound silly, but I really feel like my testimony is of the prodigal son. I went away.
Yeah.
I decided to do with my freedom as I wanted to. I knew what was right. I was raised well. I came from people who taught me right and wrong, and I chose wrong. And I chose to be of the flesh, and I chose to do things that aren't great. And then I started running to God. I wanted all of it, all of the time. And then I got into my gratitude, and I was working through this. It's not a bad job. It wasn't right for me.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because not every job is meant for you, with your personality, with your skills, with all the things. Yeah,
I'm not a neurosurgeon. I know that. So but Sweet Peas is always kind of my big goal, but like seemed unattainable at the time. And then a situation came up where I had to go to Sweet Peas, and Cedra, the owner, pulled me to a side and started talking about me coming back as a manager as full-time. She would be able to pay me full-time. And this is a small town boutique. I really thought she would not be able to do that for me, but she knew my story. She was one of the ones that I would call when I was in jail, a second mom to me, this woman.
And she has seen your transformation.
Exactly. She saw me in high school. She saw me in college. She knew something was wrong while I was away. And then when I started to get clean, my mom had told her, they had talked, and she was there for me. Another person that I thought that I was unworthy of, that wanted to show up for me, despite me,
Yes. Beautiful.
She saw that I had worked my way back up. I started at Waffle House. She would come in and be my customer at Waffle House. And then I moved to another job. And then I moved to another job. And then I didn't tell her I was miserable at my job. I told her everything was great. I'm doing great. Love it. I'm working through the problems as they come. And she asked me to come back and be her manager full time. And that's my dream job. I am literally living my dream. 7 years clean, 7 years from the worst of the worst of the worst of my life. And I'm here. And 7 years might sound like a long time, but it felt like a snap of a finger. It was, I blinked my eyes and now I'm living this wonderful life that 8 years ago, you would ask me, I wouldn't have been worthy for it. I wouldn't have been alive. If you would have asked me 8 years ago, where do you see yourself in 8 years? I'd been like in 6 feet under.
And so much to be grateful for through all of that.
Exactly. So how can I not have the mindset of gratitude after everything that I've done and been through and achieved and accomplished and grown from? How can I not be grateful for all that God has provided me? Because it's not me. I'm not the reason I'm here.
Oh, no. And that can be said of any of us.
Yes. Gratitude is something that everyone can benefit from.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what I went through to get to the mindset of gratitude. It's that I am here now, and I know that I am equipped to take on challenges now.
Where you were and where you are now, there is huge growth that can only be explained by God.
Yes.
And as a result, one of the things that was grown in you is the perspective of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Along with many, many, many other things. I feel, for my own story, how important it is for us to thank God, yes, for the pillow or the car or the job. I spend time thanking Him for the challenges.
Yes.
While that feels strange to say,
no,
thank Him for the challenges, that's where I grew the most.
Yep.
And I thank Him for that. Part of what I thank Him for is that He was with me. He did not forsake me,
Never.
Did not leave me. He didn't say, Mel, you can handle this. Yeah. No, I couldn't handle it.
Right.
None of it could I have handled without God. While we've talked about many of the things we can be grateful for,
when I was arrested, I don't remember much of that night, but when I was called to court, the officer who arrests you has to be there. I don't understand legal stuff, but I know he was there. I went up to him and I shaked his hand and I said, "Thank you for arresting me that night. You saved my life."
Wow.
At that point, I think I was 10 months clean. And I told him that. I was like, I'm 10 months clean because I had overdosed before, but that wasn't what got me clean. It was you taking me to jail and having to sit with myself and sit with God. That's one of those thanking God for the challenges.
Yes.
Who knew I would be grateful that I was arrested with a felony charge? But once again, thank God for first offenders because that is not on my record anymore because I was able to plead that I made a mistake and I won't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on that probation and I was as law-abiding as I could possibly be because I was like, I'm not going to mess this up. I am done being the problem in my life.
Wow.
I understand.
That's a powerful statement right there, honey. Truly, that's a powerful statement.
Yes, because I know that problems may come, but it's no longer going to be me that holds myself back. That officer that day, I don't think he probably gets too many drug addicts that come up to him.
But no, I can't imagine that he does.
He looked a little shocked, but he tensed up a little bit when I came up to him. And then he kind of relaxed some because I was like, I just want to say thank you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
I don't know that we could end on a better place than that because that is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, honey, this has been fabulous.
Such a pleasure.
Both episodes, just fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. This has been wonderful. I'm so glad to be able to share my story with you.